What up, YouTube? Welcome to What the Papers Say with Deek Jackson here in sunny Oban. I hope you can see Oban behind me. It's a lovely day in Oban. Okay, What the Papers Say. Tributes paid to victims of landslip rail crash. Just once, I'd like to hear people say after some tragedy when people died, Jimmy's dead, he was a cunt, he really was, nobody liked him, he was a total fucking wanker. Those other people who died, they were wankers as well. I'd like to see the community come on and say, we're glad so-and-so died horribly. It's more than he deserves. How come everybody who dies in some kind of news story was wonderful and loved by the community? I don't buy that shit. Anyway, that story is about the people who died in the rail slip crash, the landslide crash yesterday in Scotland. The train derailed. An interesting story, actually. The train, first of all, was turned back by a landslide. You'd think at that point they might have thought, you know what, fuck it, let's stop and get off the train. The railway's obviously not safe, but no, they turned around, went back the way they came, and something happened. Potentially the rail was undermined, and that led to a derailment. Perhaps we'll never know. I'm sure some people are working on it right now. You know, this might not have been such a good idea. It's awfully noisy here. Sleepy shoegazer, good morning. Oil ship drained of remaining fuel. All the remaining oil has been pumped from a Japanese ship that ran aground off Mauritius. The initial spill, 1,000 tons, severely damaged the Indian Ocean's islands, coral reefs, and once pristine environment, groups say. You know, lots of people have a problem when there's an oil spill because a few thousand tons of oil spill on their lovely beaches because they can see it and they go, oh my God, look at that. Do you know how many billion tons of oil exhaust went in our atmosphere? The stuff you're breathing in right now, this year, or in the last 12 months? 40 billion tons. How's about that for a fucking oil spill? But, nobody's up in arms about that because there aren't any cute little seagull babies to wipe down with cotton buds. Really, 1,000 tons of oil on your pristine beaches, Mauritius, are nothing compared to the ongoing cataclysm of oil exhaust that we burned and put into your lungs. That's right, take a deep breath. Man, this spot sucks. Look at this shit. Maybe it's rush hour here or something. Chinese President Xi Jinping has called on his countrymen to cut down on food waste. Sounded the alarm on food waste. China had to maintain a sense of crisis about food security. You betcha, because not many people know this, but China's agriculture is dire. Vast tracts of China have very poor soil, and it's quite difficult to grow things successfully in China. And they'll be one of the first nations to start starving to death when agriculture stress starts to really bite due to climate change. Oh, they're calling it the Clean Plate campaign. Well, you know, that's the sort of thing that just leads to an epidemic of obese Chinamen. Do you know what I mean? The president says must clean plate. Gobble, 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 gobble. Tributes paid to victims of Stonehaven crash. Royals to take part in VJ, that's Victory in Japan Day Memorial Service. We'll come to that. It's a double-page spread. A-level results, yada yada. Still a lot of stress about how nobody could sit an exam because of coronavirus, and all their grades were guessed. They call it estimated. but it's a guess. Estimation's just a posh word for we guessed. Now, some people won in the guessing game and some people lost. And there's a lot of bitching about that. I don't give a fuck, because I'm not sitting any exams or going to university. In Scotland, the Education Minister, Swinney, hung on after a vote of no confidence brought by the opposition due to his handling of the exam scandal, they're calling it. But really, it was small cheese. Here's an interesting story. Andrew Lloyd Webber, the composer, lyricist, and the man behind many very famous musicals, including Cats, Phantom of the Opera, Jesus Christ Superstar, etc. He has volunteered to join vaccine trials to boost UK venues. His theory being that if he takes part in a vaccine trial, it will speed up the distribution of the vaccine and therefore the end of the crisis, and people can go back to watching Cats and Jesus Christ Superstar. Well, what I would like to see happen is he takes part in the vaccine trial and he suffers hideous and severe side effects. Mohammed something, scamdemic, like that. Hadn't heard that one before. Scamdemic, very good. So let's imagine Lloyd Webber joins the vaccine trial, suffers severe epidemics, and then writes a musical based upon his experiences. Something like, I let them jab me in the arm, now my head has swollen up. I let them give me chemical soup, and now my body's gone to poop, and so on. Yeah, vaccines are notoriously riven with side effects. In fact, if you Google it, and I urge that you do, the annual flu vaccine in the UK leads to a significant, whatever that may be, number of people who have adverse reactions and suffer severe side effects, including respiratory illness that goes on for months. Something to watch out for if you were considering having a vaccine. And just on that subject, almost 600,000 people in the UK have a post-COVID illness. Poop us out eventually. Oh yes, it will. Almost 600,000 people in the UK have post-COVID illnesses. This is a story about how people who have survived having COVID and being in hospital go on to have severe and long-lasting fatigue and respiratory symptoms. And perhaps that is because, if you'll just engage with a small conspiracy theory, the man who discovered the AIDS, the HIV virus, the Nobel Prize winning scientist, a Frenchman called Lagrange, he is on record and is currently waiting on an answer from the European Parliament. He is on record as saying that the virus was made in a laboratory, that it was made in Wuhan, that it has all the appearance of a engineered virus, that Wuhan has exactly the kind of expertise and equipment to engage in molecular biology and create such a virus. I'm just telling you what he says. And one of the other things he says is that this alleged man-made virus has elements of the malaria and HIV DNA in it, which is interesting in regard to these people who are suffering the post-COVID malaise, because malaria goes on and on and on. You never stop suffering from malaria. You have bouts, and then you're in remission, and then you have bouts, and then you're in remission. So something to look forward to there for the whole of humanity, as this virus, from whence ever it came, propagates through us. Hospital hires guards to keep relatives at bay in India. That's nice, isn't it? Yeah, The police don't fuck about in India. They've got the biggest truncheons I've ever seen. Them in Pakistan, you ever seen them? Their truncheons like 6 foot long, like they were already afraid of catching something off people they were hitting. Okay, MPs want drink container charge scheme expanded. MPs in Britain are calling for a deposit return scheme for drink containers to be as broad as possible, giving people an incentive to recycle their single-use containers by charging a bit extra for the drink. This little extra money can be redeemed when the vessel is returned, and then we can ship it to Turkey and they'll burn it at the side of the road. I swear, people, it's a fucking lie. They're not recycling anything. Even if you do redeem your alleged recyclable drinks container, it was recently shown that the waste we used to send to China, which China refused to take anymore, which we then started shipping to Turkey, when it gets to Turkey, the company who has the contract is dumping it at the side of the road and setting fire to it. I recycle fuck all. I will not recycle fuck all. Stop making the shit. Stop making that shit. That's the only way. And until people start calling for an end to the production of shit we don't need, there's no solution. Recycling just means putting it somewhere else. Prince Philip, who? It is him. Who? Who is Prince Philip? How to avoid repeating this exams mess. Don't lock everybody up and ban people from going to school. Cinemas to host remote juries in high court trials. Juries will hear trials remotely from cinema complexes under plans to increase the number of cases heard during the coronavirus pandemic. Now imagine something goes wrong with that. Imagine something goes wrong. You turn up to see James Bond or, you know, a rerun of Star Wars on the big screen with the surround sound Dolby system. And instead, it's Labour councillor Jimmy Whitby up on charges of possessing child pornography. Or it's, burglary and a fray in the town centre. The poor hapless drunk who smacked a copper in the mouth, pleading that he can't remember anything. Domestic abuse. What kind of movie do you think that would? You know, some people would pay for that. I actually would pay to go and see court cases on a big screen rather than some Hollywood pish. It's actually more interesting, real life, way more interesting than Thor and another Marvel Comics DC superhero vomit train. Really. Dum dum da dum dum da dum dum da dum. Yeah, okay, burning, okay. Dum dum da 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 dum. America, here is your future. It's the Democratic stormtroopers of Biden-Kamala. America, this is your future. These people are the evil empire of woke pish. These people are, Trump is bad. I'm not cheerleader for Trump, but honestly, Biden and Kamala, way worse, way worse. The foldy role of pretending that they've got virtue and care about you while they sell you down the river to giant corporations who funded their election campaign should make you sick to the back of your throat. Really. Dum dum da dum dum da dum dum da dum. The empire is coming back. In Lebanon, the resignation of the government. In Lebanon, the resignation of the government shows a higher moral code than the West displays, according to this hack here, because the government of Lebanon resigned. The government of Lebanon resigned after the explosion that destroyed their grain silo, and it turned out they were inept. But they also resigned because the country of Lebanon was given a giant check. That's right, a giant check from the IMF to institute reforms, which are a byword for free market capitalist rape of your people and resources. And so that must have been a big check. That's the kind of morality the government of Lebanon displayed. Somebody showed them a real big check and they rolled over and let them tickle their tongue. That's in fact, that's exactly the kind of morality we've got here in the West. All right, folks, here it is. It's VJ Day. It's Victory in Europe Day. 75 years since Victory in Europe. Let's celebrate. What exactly are we celebrating? Yes, it is the H-bomb. And this is not the time and place to revise the history of the entire Second World War. But just to go over a few things about the dropping of the 2 atomic bombs on Japan at the end of the war. First of all, the day before they dropped that first bomb, there was an incendiary raid on Tokyo. It killed 90,000 people. That's more people than died in either of the atomic bomb drops. 90,000 people killed by cheap incendiaries. America didn't need to use the atom bomb on Japan to destroy its cities. Japan's cities are made of paper and cardboard at the time. They could have just kept incendiary bombing the fuck out of them. And that's what they were going to do. I don't think they were planning, I mean, I'm speculating, I don't think, you know, 1 million GIs were hitting the shores of Japan until they had burned every wooden shack to the ground and decimated every large industrial concern from the air. So, no, dropping the bomb is now widely acknowledged by historians to have been a signal to Russia. Perhaps Russia didn't believe Truman when he said, you know, you should get the fuck out of Europe because we've got the bomb. Or, you know, you should behave now because we've got the bomb. I don't think Russia was buying it, so they dropped one. The second bomb, however, now opinion is split on this. Either they dropped the second bomb because the Japanese are so hardcore, like the Monty Python Night sketch where he's getting his arms hacked off and he says, "It's only a scratch, I've had worse." The Japanese had quite a tumultuous debate in the high echelons of command. Some people wanted to surrender, but the army wanted to fight to the bitter death. No matter how many bombs were dropped on Japan, the army would have toughed it out until the GIs hit the shore, and then they would have fought them off with rocks, stones, and sharp sticks. So, first one dropped to impress Russia, second one dropped to convince the emperor and or any allies he had to finally give it up, man. Give it up. Okay, and that's what the papers say. Okay, in other news, I'm here in Oban, and I went to Wetherspoons, where I've been before, regularly. Endless coffee, cheap food, literally cheap. Does what it says on the tin. It's not great, but it is cheap. And when I arrived here this morning, they had instituted the compulsory track and trace pesh that's now spreading all over Scotland, as far as I can see. And I tried to tell the man, first of all, I was invited to, you know, cover my hands in cancerous alcohol. I declined, said I was allergic. And then he told me I had to complete track and trace, and I said I'm autistic. But he wasn't buying that. He was really intent on his little Hitler power. I mean, what the fuck does he care if he lets one more punter in without taking a number? No, no, he said, you must, you must, you must. Okay, I said, well, you do it for me. Because, hey, you know, if we're avoiding the disease, then I don't want to touch your shit. No, no, you do it. I said, no, you do it. I don't want to touch anything that you might have touched. Okay, so he said, what's your name? I said, Willie Nelson. And he looked at me. Okay, what's your phone number? I said, 01234512334. 1234. Is this a real number? Yes, those are real numbers. And then he started saying, I don't think this is going to work. I think you should go. Why? I said, why should I go? Why don't you just let me in and take my details? Well, you fill them in so that at least you know that you're putting the right number down. So I filled in Willie Nelson's name and 12345 as my telephone number. And then he said, you have to put today's date and your time of arrival. I said, really? I said, so I wrote, it's now. It's today and it's now. And I could see him tiring of the whole thing. So he said, oh, okay. And he let me in. But it wasn't finished. It wasn't finished. Because when I went in and sat down, normally I order on the app and somebody brings me a cup and I go to the coffee machine and I fill it up myself, and you can have as many refills of coffee as you like. Somebody came over and said, are you having a drink, sir? I said, yes, I've ordered a coffee. He said, what coffee would you like? I said, I'll get it. Oh, no, you can't. I'll have to bring it to you. I said, well, I don't want you to. I'm autistic. I don't want you to touch my cup. I want to touch my cup, and I want to see that coffee goes into my cup. Oh, okay. Do you want to come with me? I will come with you. And as we were walking over, I said, they're only guidelines, you know. I'm a guideline, you're a guideline, we could be guidelines together. They're just guidelines. You're not a policeman, are you? No, I'm not, but no, it's policy. I said, well, my policy is to see that I'm getting coffee in my cup and I touch my cup. So she let me do that. And I sat down and then I downloaded an image that says, I am autistic, please be patient. And as I was leaving, I asked to see the management, and I told the manager, I'm autistic. I like Witherspoons, but I don't want to touch anything or have to remember my phone number. And he said, yeah, oh yes, absolutely, no problem. And I said, I'll be back, but I don't want to touch anything or remember my number. He said, yep, no problem. I said, I was here yesterday and none of this happened. He says, no, it's just changed. We've been told by head office to do this. He said, it could change tomorrow. We just don't know. So my advice to anybody who's struggling with track and trace or these compulsions that corporations are trying to force on you is catch autism. It's great being autistic because it's a disability which is invisible and which, if somebody starts to question you about, you can claim, this is their Achilles heel, you can claim discrimination. You can claim that you're being mistreated, and you can start to make strange noises and shake your head, which really freaks them out. So, yeah, I'm autistic. I hope you're autistic too, and I hope we see a plague of autism. Anybody out there, anywhere in the world, suffering from this little Hitler pish that people are putting out, be autistic. Be as autistic as you like. I know I am. All right, thanks for watching What the Papers Say. I'll be busking later. I may stream it. Cheers.